Hey guys, I deleted my other video by accident, but one of the things that I'd like to mention that um, talking about growing cannabis on your own, besides um, having your either your actinic or mactinic lights, LED lights, full spectrum halogen grow lights. Of course, you either makeshift DIY greenhouse, humidifier, and of course your tie strings to be able to hold up your stalks or your buds. Um, of course, we all understand that there's different times of fertilization, and of course fertilization is feeding your plant. um, Now, the best way to go, I know a lot of beginners, they either use synthetic fertilizers, which is whether Miracle Grow or Peters 2020, which is all right. It contains 20% nitrogen, 20% phosphorus, and 20% potassium. But mind you, whatever synthetic fertilizer that you do put in your cannabis, you're basically going to consume. Same thing goes for whatever insecticide you use, or pesticide, or herb, or even pre-emergent herbicide if you're growing in the ground, if you're not laboring fields yourself, or if you're growing in a pot, you got your fungicides. Now, the downside to using synthetics is that whatever you use, you consume, and that goes for anything. So one of the best insecticides that I use on leaves and on the plant itself is nicotine sulfate. Now, I create my own nicotine sulfate. I don't necessarily buy it from another country, because you'll pay an arm and a leg, and if you don't know how to distribute it correctly, you're going to end up killing yourself or killing your plant. So what I do is I get an empty jug of a basic milk jug, and then a full jug of water, and then I ferment bugler tobacco, the old-fashioned rolling tobacco, for about 3 days in the sun. Once I dilute that, I strain it into the empty gallon of water, and that is 100% natural nicotine sulfate. So that in itself is good for gnats, woolly mites, aphids. You got caterpillars. It's a basic all around. Even ants, if you're growing outside, it's an all around safe insecticide, which our government uses nicotine sulfate in their fields when they're growing for the product, but of course in higher concentrate. But the best thing to do is just stick organic, whether you use seaweed extract, fish emulsion, Super Thrive fertilizer, has to grow fertilizer, ladybug fertilizer, whether you use malorganite. A lot of people like to use chicken shit or cow shit. I really try to stay away from using chicken shit because of the amount of ammonia and the amount of bugs that you can attract towards that. Now, if it was pasteurized, then it would be a different story. But But the main nutrition comes from, of course, what type of soil do you use? You know, do you add vermiculite? Do you add perlite? Do you add coconut, degenerated coconut? Do you use peat moss? Do you use uh, roll soil? Technically, what I'm using and what I've used before in the past has been soil conditioner, peat moss, vermiculite, perlite, um coconut, bales of coconut husk, which has been ground up, um, and I add a tiny bit of Osmocote, and that's for slow feeding when I don't have the time to actually feed. Um, and then of course it's not rocket science. Please don't water the leaves or the buds. You're gonna fuck them up, and you're gonna create a whole shit a mess and ruin your crop. Um, Second of all, of course, comes if you're growing outdoors, you're growing in greenhouse. Of course, you got to have your string up, your wire up. You got to have your ventilators. If you're growing in greenhouse, make sure the temperature is right. Making sure also the pH in your water is right. Because a lot of the times, if you have pH at 8.7, you have chlorine that's up the roof, and mind you, in some cities they do use a small micrograms of strychnine to kill and lead to kill most of the bacteria. But unfortunately, our plants are absorbing that water, so therefore, whatever's in the water, unless you do a flush between feedings, and I'm talking about weeks apart, with reverse osmosis water, or even spring water, because spring water does carry certain nutrients. Now that doesn't mean that you're gonna buy a fucking bottle of water that's like, $12. I mean, give me a break, man. It's still a fucking plant. You use basic spring water, or you can even use running stream water. If you have like a little stream or a river or rainwater, I mean, if you can't get reverse osmosis water, or you don't have a reverse osmosis system inside of your greenhouse, then try going the route of collecting your rainwater, depending on, of course, on what zone you live in the state, or in the country, because sometimes people don't get enough rain. But even though creating your own distilled water, which takes a shitload of work, sorry, there's a fucking fly in here, it'll be good for your plant. But always making sure that you're also, we want to make sure that as growers, we're keeping up with the foliage growth as much as the stock growth. There's certain inches of trunk and of branches per amount of stem leaf stock. So you don't want to have your plant at certain times, certain weeks during the season, with so many bottom leaves and stems, because you'll end up having smaller buds and more of a girthy plant, which you want to avoid. Of course, the sativa and indica, of course, are very different. And once you go into 2, 3-way, 4-way crosses in pollinating, it turns it around as well. But I do suggest fertilizing organically, using actinic or mactinic lights, which are the best. They use them for saltwater aquariums. They are expensive. LED lights are also well when you're growing indoors, but you got to make sure that you have your makeshift greenhouse, humidifier, and dehumidifier, and of course, learning the germination time, and from germination time to harvest time. That's the most important thing when growing your own cannabis. I'll get more into technical terms later on once I get everything rolling. But I do have a degree in horticulture, and I've been growing since I've been a kid. So, and a piece of fucking paper doesn't matter, but it's the experience that you have and the type of cannabis that you grow and what you are looking for in your final product. Take care. Peace out. Don't do anything fucking stupid. And on a positive note, regardless of this COVID-19, we need to say prayers for our families. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care where you're watching from, whether you're Pentecostal, Christian, Buddhist, Jehovah's Witness, or whatever you are, whether you smoke cannabis or not. Pray for your families. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. And don't be a fucking doormat for anybody. There's too many men and women that are fucking living doormats. Stand up for the right of yourself and for morality. You know what I'm saying? There's too much political brown nosing all over the fucking place. It's ridiculous. That's why I don't get into that bullshit. I do support voting, but in reality, sometimes your fucking vote doesn't even count. And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that, but it's true, because some of the laws are so fucking fascist and so segregated to a class of people, when we all bleed the same, we all shit the same color, and we bleed the same fucking color, red. We're all human beings. I don't give a shit if you're black, white, Mexican, Chinese, whatever. Don't matter, Japanese, Puerto Rican, doesn't give a shit to me. We're all people, and we're all one. We need to start settling out our fucking differences and stop killing each other over stupid shit. All right, peace out.